All right, I just had to be quick, and now we're here. Folks, are you ready for some racing action? Because this is Colin McRae Rally 2.0 Championship Novice Bonus Cars with Viper UK. So, Viper, let's get rolling.
Everyone, thank you very much. So yes, hello, you may have seen me before. I'm Viper or Viper UK or Viper Races, or just put it Viper, whichever's easiest for you. This is Colin McRae Rally 2, released in 2000. This is the PC version of the game. We're going to be running the Novice Championship with bonus cars. Apologies if I sound a bit bunged up, I do have a cold, so apologies for that in advance. I might have to take a few breathers and mute the mic for coughing and stuff. Apologies for that. But yes, this is the bonus cars category, which means we can use any car in the game, more specifically the fastest cars in the game. The Peugeot 205 T16 excuse me, is what we're going to be using for this run. So, if we're ready to go on time, I'll give you a countdown, and we're going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, so first things first, the game has got dynamic weather, which means that every time we do a run, the weather is completely dynamic. So you can see here we're off to a bad start because we have wet weather, and I have to basically play with this no matter what. Now, this will mean that the run will be slightly slower because of the fact that the car cannot grip. For those that are curious about the Peugeot 205 T16 and why it was very popular, why it was a popular car, it was popular due to the fact that back in the 1980s it was part of the Group B phenomenon in the WRC. It was driven by Ari Batten amongst a handful of drivers, was seen as an absolute monster and a bit of a rocket ship. Now, Colin McRae Rally 2 is the second game in the Colin McRae Rally franchise. It did introduce a couple of new things, for example, dynamic weather, the first and only time in the Colin McRae Rally series that we had a dynamic weather system. This was something that wasn't introduced in any of the other games apart from this one. So this still has a win over the Colin McRae Rally games, which eventually became the Dirt series. Now, due to it being wet weather, it will mean that I will slide more on corners, I will slide more on grass, and so on and so on. So what we are hoping for, excuse me, is we are hoping that what happens is that it stops raining and that we'll be alright going forward. So we do have a multitude of cars that we can use, and the multitude of cars that we have include things like the Lancia Stratos, the Mini Cooper, the Lancia Delta Integrale, the Ford Sierra Cosworth, what else do we have? Ford Escort Mark 1, it is, and lots of few other cars too. Again, excuse me, but it's a very bad day for me to do this, I think. But yeah, we have 8 countries. Oh, excuse me. As I was saying, we have 8 countries with 4 stages each. Every second rally will have a super special stage. The super special stage will be, it will have a head-to-head race, which we are going to deliberately reverse and head backwards, simply because of the fact that it allows us to get disqualified and we get a time penalty, but it's a lot quicker than actually doing the run itself, by doing the race itself. So this game introduced challenge mode, it also introduced arcade mode as well. The arcade mode, for those that are unaware, it was something new for the series. It actually didn't appear again until I think it was like Rallycross or something like that we got in the original Dirt game. Yeah, it was something else in entirely. The one thing I will say as well is that this game introduced something called challenge mode, and challenge mode is not as difficult as you might think. So challenge mode was a special exception. It was basically where, as I mentioned before, every second rally has a super special stage. So Greece, Sweden, Kenya, and lastly the UK. And a super special stage is a head-to-head race, basically. It's a one-on-one. versus another competitor. Most of the time that'll probably be like Backer or maybe even McRae himself. But we won't really need to know anything about that other than the fact that we'll be using this like going backwards thing and hitting the car in the opposite direction and get penalised because of the fact that we gained that much time during the run that what we're able to do is, well, we're able to gain that much time that we can take a penalty and still win. So essentially this speeds things up a little bit. I will clarify a couple of things. First things first, you may have noticed that the skybox is flickering a lot. Now this is due to the fact that when I installed this game on Windows 7 originally, it had a problem with graphics. When I installed it on Windows 10, it had the same problem. There is a known patch for this and you can fix it. I believe it's something to do with a DLL file. So there is something else as well, is that for those that may or may not be aware, Silent Patch, or Silent, who's patched many different games, a lot of Rockstar games, but also he patched this game. He's also patched the original Toka Touring Car Championship and Toka 2 Touring Car Championship in different kind of ways. So he's obviously done like widescreen patches and so on and so on. And the main thing he did with this, I think this was back in 2016, 15, 16, he made the Silent patch for this game. So big ups to Silent for all those years ago making the patch. Now, like I said, there is a case of that you can fix the screen. The reason why I choose not to fix the flickering is actually a simple reason, but it's one that seems to differ depending on the PC. So, for example, I patched the game on Windows 10 before, but then it doesn't allow me to capture the game at all in OBS, and I have no idea why. So by capturing it, by not fixing the game and allowing it to be captured easily, yeah, that's basically why. So I will actually just be kind of open about this. So Colin McRae Rally 2 actually has a small modding scene. So there are a few mods you can mod in WRC 2002 mod. There's like a WRC Legends mod, which I believe someone in the community has created as well. You can obviously download many skins for the game. And I will be honest as well, you can mod the game files with relative ease. I wouldn't say like the easiest thing in the world to modify, but yeah, you can modify like game files. So I know that so a member of our community, Cousin, who's also runs of this game as well, who's a French speedrunner, racing speedrunner. He has done runs of this, and he has modded in Samir, the co-driver of the famous Samir, you're bligging the car, and he's got like sound clips from that, and all of the co-driver's calls are all from that particular video. Because he managed to extract like certain things for certain calls and things, which is really, really funny. So you get stuff like that as well. I've done like a bit of a backward swap and swapped out so I've swapped out Colin McRae Rally 1 sound files for Colin McRae Rally 2 and vice versa, and it makes such an improved difference. So we move on from Finland to Greece. Greece is the second rally out of 8, and this first stage immediately has a big trick. So what we're going to do here is, if we can, and the game plays ball with me, just about. Sometimes it's an easy way to get up there, but sometimes it's not. So we're going to use a out of bounds trick up here. So we're going to climb to the top of this hill here, and I'll turn left. And we're going to follow this grass bank here at the top, without flipping the car or anything like that. And we're going to go perform a massive skip. Now I will be honest, some of these skips are from various members of the community. Someone called Pharaoh managed to find a hell of a lot by going out of bounds. So hopefully I get this right. So I have a certain line for this, so I hope it works. It does. So we're gonna go over here, and hopefully with a bit of luck. Oh my god, that was very close. Okay. Phew. Very close. So that's the out of bounds. I thought the car was gonna flip over then, that's why I was like, ooh. But it's not over yet, so what I have to be careful of is that I don't flip the car, otherwise the game respawns you back on the ground again. We don't want the game to respawn us until we tell it to respawn us. So for now, we're going to drive around here. And what we're going to do is just drive down this big hill. And you can see here there is a load of terrain you can drive across. We're going to just drive across this terrain here. And we're going to go out of bounds here. And across the finish line there. So you can see here that that is a massive time skip. We gain over 2 minutes of the AI. On the AI. And that's going to be enough to immediately blast through the wrong way thing that we do later on the super special stage. But yeah, car setup for this game is quite basic, to be honest. For those wondering as well, like with rally games, you have to have a specific setup for cars, but for this one, there is no such problems. You only need to modify the car a select few times, not like really technically, and obviously what we try not to do is try not to repair the car and try not to damage it as much as we can. But if the host has anything they want to say, then feel free to go right ahead.
Yeah, I want to welcome the Raiders who just showed up. Thank you so much. I hope your prior stream went well, and welcome to Prevent-A-Thon 6. We're raising funds for Little Warriors here. If you type !donate in the chat right now, you can get a link to that donation page. We have an open bid war and an open incentive for a Donkey Kong Bonanza bonus run later on this marathon, as well as a bid war for a Spider-Man costume. If you're interested in getting in on that and supporting us and Little Warriors in general, now will be a fantastic time to donate. I'd love to read off whatever you're interested in seeing. So thank you for stopping by.
No problem. So we had like it was saying, we had so you have like a gearbox change, things like that. We never really changed the tires. It is literally just the gearbox that we've changed primarily, which is really interesting because in a rally game you can easily, if you so decide, you can easily change a lot of things on the car. But the main ones to change for this game are definitely the gearbox. The tires don't make a difference. And to kind of prove what I mean by the tires don't make a difference is I've used the wet tires when it's been raining versus the dry tires, and the dry tires are faster every time. Like, it's weird physics. Like, you have to get used to the fact that the car will slide more because obviously dry tires, wet track or wet surface, you can imagine how that's gonna go. But it's kind of funny how it ends up being quicker overall just to use the dry tires on wet tracks. It's quite funny. It is to me, at least. So one of the main things I'm going to quickly mention as well. So I didn't really talk about the countries that much. So you start with Finland, which is very fast and flowing. Then you have Greece, which used to be a bit of a bore, really, but it's gotten a lot better because of out of bounds and glitches that were found. Then we get to my personal favourite, which is France, which is tarmac heaven, I call it. Or Tour de Corse as it's known in the real WRC, because it was based on the island of Corsica. And then we go over to Sweden, our one and only visit with snow. And then we move on to Australia, which unsurprisingly, well, I say unsurprisingly, compared to what Greece used to be the rally that bored me a lot, that seems to now be Australia, because Australia doesn't have much in terms of like glitches or out of bounds. So Australia is probably going to be like the most like unbroken of the lot. It'll be like the most normal rally, we'll call it. Then we move on to Kenya, which is very fast and flowing, a bit like Finland, except the car can reach some very high top speeds. We then move over to Italy, which is known as Rally San Remo in the real life calendar, although I call it tarmac hell because of the amount of corners that there is. We then move to the UK, and the UK is usually what makes or breaks the run. But the UK is very busted. When I say very, I mean like stages 1 and 4 are quite busted. Stage 2 and 3 are less so. So you'll see what I mean as we go through. Stage 4 very much so, but we'll get to that. We'll get to it. You'll see some interesting lines to get out of bounds and things like that. There are some, I will just kind of mention as well, so this game did release on the PS1 as well, and it did get a portable version in the handheld GBA market. It was released on the Game Boy Advance. The PS1 version allows for most of these tricks that you can see me do to be done. However, due to the PS1's rendering distance, you'll get stuff like, for example, one of the skips that you saw me do with Grease Stage 1, we can't do that, but it has its own unique tricks that the PC version can't do. So what we do here is we wait for that checkpoint and we drive forward. That spawns us further ahead on the stage. It only saves like 2 or 3 seconds by doing that, but it's still time save. There are some extreme cuts which can be done but require very precise movement. Unfortunately, not many people have managed to get them done. I'll be honest, I've tried some of these myself and they are damn near impossible to get. Some other runners are able to do much better than me, and that's fine. I'll admit to not being the best in the world at this game, but at the same time, I think that I'm quite consistent at doing a lot of stuff overall, just not the massive tricks that are like a 1 in a million shot. So you may see me take some unique lines here as well for this, for a lot of the stages, and cut a lot of the corners slightly here and there. But again, this is all in the interest of saving time. There is something that's coming up next, which I'll just quickly explain. So the super special stage I was on about will involve us driving backwards. Now, there's 2 things that's wrong with the super special stages. Firstly, the collision detection is broken, so you could go right through a car and it not actually count as a collision. So the car collisions are a bit weird. They're a bit off, and we don't know how they work or why they're busted on PC. We've no idea. We've tried different frame rates, it still doesn't work. But the biggest bugbear of all, and this is something that carries through into the challenge mode, because it seems to be limited, and I mean limited, to super special stages only. So the delay on the controller is very odd. So I will be spamming like mad to try and go backwards to do the reverse gear now, and the game will not let me do it. So it might look like I'm actually getting my gears right here, but realistically I'm spamming the buttons like crazy to put my gears down and gears up, because I don't know when it's going to register a gear. It's very odd because the PS1 version doesn't have this problem, even on emulation. You can see here that right now we've got a car coming up, and I don't know where that car's collision detection is, so I'm going to try and get near it, and there you go. Then we found it. The game eventually found it. So that's what I mean, and it also carries on into the actual menus as well. So you have to spam it like mad to get through like them little menus after the stage. So now that we're done with Greece, we're now on to France. Now, France is a different ball game altogether, because France involves tarmac. Now, I have picked a shorter gearbox. I could pick a longer one if I so desired, but just for the sake of things, I'm going to pick a shorter gearbox. Why? If I have a car with acceleration, it means that even if I make a mistake, it allows me to still keep the car on track. Now, this doesn't mean that I won't fly off the track. I will tell you right now, France and Italy both require a fair bit of concentration, so I might end up quieting down a little bit during them. I do personally like France in this game because of the fact of, I think it was the one rally that, when I was a kid, it used to frustrate me and actually scare me. A bit like Italy, to be honest, but France became a rally that I absolutely loved. I put so many hours of practice into it that the cars now just drive like I want them to, and it's just like muscle memory. And it was weird as well, because for a period of time, and I don't like to turn my own horn or anything, but for a period of time, it was like a case of if we did a community race, if I fell behind on Finland and Greece, it's like, oh, there we go. As soon as we get to France, yeah, Viper's going to catch up. I could gain like 20 or 30 seconds on him in France alone. It was ridiculous. This day and age, we don't really do community races, but I think if we did a community race, I would not nearly be that far up the road. I'd probably like 2 seconds, 3 seconds up the road, because the guys have caught up and got much better at the rallies. They still think I'm pretty good at it, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I'm not. I think for the good part of 4 or 5 years with competition here and there, I was the record holder, and then various members of the community came along, and it's had an interesting development as for the world record, this, to be honest, because it's like, so the original record for this was, I think, like a 137 that was set back in 2015. Then we had Zola do, I think it was a 135 in 2016. At which point, towards the back end of 2016, I started learning the game on PS1. Because I remember the PS1 version vividly, compared to the PC version. Now here's the bit that kind of was a bit of a kick in the teeth. So I knew this game quite a lot, and I played this game quite a lot when I was a kid. I didn't memorize every stage or anything like that, but I remember the game quite a lot. And I did like 2 runs on PS1, and I was like, I think I did like a 141 or something was my first. And then I did another run, which was a 137, so I was about 2 minutes behind Zola on the PS1. And then I realized something. I took my driving from PS1 to the PC version and realized something absolutely shocking. Was that when I took my driving to PC, I noticed that I could complete stages faster in less time because the game ran at 60 FPS instead of 25. And obviously, PC being the PC version, I had faster loading times. They weren't much faster, but they were a fair bit faster compared to emulation that I was using. And what ended up happening was I did a run, and I think it was like the one run I got a chance to do. And it ended up being a 127.43, I think it was. Which at the time was like a record by about 8 minutes. So I completely destroyed Zola at the time. Then I was like, okay, I can get this down to a 126. I know I can. So I did a 126.58 eventually, after a fair bit of trying. And then the competition came, and there was someone called Lucky who was the competition at the time. We had people like Zorkov and a few other runners join in. And yeah, fair to say the competition did heat up, and people got closer and closer. Certain people started finding new tricks, and eventually Lucky managed to beat me by 7 seconds. I think it was a 126.51 he did on Christmas Day in 2017. Out of all days to do it, he did it on that day. And obviously I was watching it, I was like, God damn it, I need to get much better at this. So I ended up spending the next 2 days completely grinding the game away, like looking at all the times where I could improve and where I could easily gain time back and everything like that. And I came back 2 days later, and I think it was like my second run. I didn't have much time because I had like a family get-together, a family party. And I came back and I did a 125.05. I near enough destroyed him by nearly 2 minutes, and I was shocked. I was physically shaking at my pace at the time. He then made it his mission to beat me back, which again, competition, so he eventually did the first sub 125. He got 124.53, I think it was. Eventually I figured out that my load times were actually being a hindrance. They ended up dropping because I found out that due to, at the time I was on Windows 7, and if I played the game in Windows XP compatibility mode, for some odd reason, the game would load faster. So I did that, and ended up getting the time down and getting better and better and better. And eventually, things got to a point where the game became ever more busted. So it was like, okay, so we've wiped 5 minutes off the game over them years, because they found that the super special stage thing I was showing, they found that was a possibility, and it was like, my god, how much time does that knock off? And it turns out it saves like 5 minutes. So it saved 5 minutes on the run, so it was like, wait, is sub 120 possible? And eventually it was between me and Lucky. Lucky stopped at 120.23, I think, which was the last PB he ever got. And I kept on going. At first I was nowhere, I couldn't get with it, couldn't understand it. And then started driving like mad to try and get the sub 120. Eventually I got it. I had like, I think there was 2 or 3 attempts where they failed at the final hurdle. I was on the last race and the car went through me, and I was on pace to get a sub 120. And in the end I just went, you know what, I practiced that last stage over and over, and figured out that if I just slow down a little bit and hope that the AI gets picked up, I was like, I'll just turn the car on. So I did, and eventually I got it. I think it was a 119.58. I got the sub 120 by 2 seconds. And then the Greece stage 1 skip came in, and a load of other skips came in, and it just ended up talking about, as time went on, the bar lowered and lowered and lowered, and eventually it got down to, I got it up to 1:16:22, but then Matik stepped in, who's currently the world record holder, and the skips that a lot of us could only get like once every now and again, he grinded the game like mad, and fair play to him. He did the skips that I couldn't do, which I knew could save time, but I didn't know by how much. Like, he improved his driving everywhere, so much so that I think he would topple me at France or Italy. I just couldn't catch him at all. And yeah, he absolutely beat us all. He started getting, so he got the game from the 1:16s to the 1:15s, and eventually got a 1:14:56, I think it was, which was correct, or 1:14:58 or something. And to this day, that still stands as the world record, because the run's just insane. It's bonkers to think that run is the record, and all the tricks that he managed to get in it was just crazy. So yeah, fair play to Matik, and he's still got the record now. In terms of like who's going to go after it next, I don't know if I'd ever chase this record, because of the fact of, like I said, I couldn't get a lot of the skips that he could get. Yeah, but in terms of the bonus cars category, I know that I think Lucky again tried his luck at it, but it was one category that for some reason, I mean, until, like I said, maybe Matik tries it or one of the other runners tries it, it's the one category where it's like I can't really be caught at the moment. And currently the record for this category is a 1:13:38. My PBs were got my practice that I was doing a couple of days ago was going pretty well. It was 1:14s, 1:15s, so I'm expecting that 1:20 to be like a very high estimate should everything go wrong, which, to be honest, there's only a few things that can go wrong, and the main one is coming in Sweden. Apart from that, I would say that we don't really have much to worry about. It's just a case of my driving doing the rest of it. I think my driving does the talking for the most part, so as far as me. You got anything you want to mention, host? Feel free to go right ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like there's lots of history behind this game, so I'm just mesmerized. But yeah, in the meantime, I just wanted to bring up, again, we're raising funds for Little Warriors, and I want to talk a little bit about one of the programs that they offer. So, offered in person and online by Little Warriors, Prevent-A is a free evidence-based educational workshop developed in Canada in conjunction with researchers at the University of Alberta. Prevent-A educates and empowers adults to take action and help prevent and respond to child sexual abuse. To learn more, go to littlewarriors.ca/prevent-it or type !prevent in chat. This is just one of the many programs Little Warriors offers, and every single dollar of your donations funds all these programs that you can access for free right now if you go to their website. So this is money well spent. This is a great cause to support. If you feel like donate, !donate. We look forward to any and all donations, and I just noticed we're almost to the $2,500 mark. We're only $7 away from that. I want to see who will be the person who snipes that. Who's going to be that person who takes 2,500, takes this marathon to 2,500? I want to see it. Let's see it in chat, folks.
No problem. I'll be completely honest. So the Colin McRae Rally series was one that obviously I grew up with. I idolised Colin McRae and everything. For those who don't know, he was a Scottish rally driver that won the World Rally Championship back in 1995. He was known for his style of how fast he would go. He'd go flat out, like really quick. And despite only winning one World Championships to his name, he became a rallying icon and a symbol. Mainly because of how he drove. It wasn't because of his video games, but his video games definitely helped his image. So Colin McRae Rally 1 released in 1998. This released 2 years later. 2 years after this, we got Colin McRae Rally 3. Then in 2003 we got Colin McRae Rally 04, and in 2004 we got Colin McRae Rally 2005. Before the last Colin McRae game, properly whilst he was still alive, was released, which was the Colin McRae Dirt game that released in 2007, approximately 2 weeks I think it was before his death. The game Dirt 2, Colin McRae Dirt 2, was a tribute to his memory. And then Codemasters dropped his name altogether for the third Dirt game, which was just out with the title Dirt 3. We then had Dirt Showdown, a Destruction Derby knockoff spin-off game of sorts that released in 2012. Dirt 4, we had Dirt Rally, Dirt 4, Dirt Rally 2.0, Dirt 5, and I believe that's where it all stopped. We did have the EA Sports WRC games for a couple of years. Obviously, since then, EA has since shut down Codemasters themselves, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah, the Colin McRae Rally series is fantastic. Now, I will just quickly mention that this can be a bit frustrating, but the second stage in Sweden has a unique skip called Ice Skip. Now, we could do this in certain cars, so in standard cars this is doable, and we can do this in bonus cars. However, it's not, what isn't consistent is the fact of whether or not you get it first try. So we might have a couple of takes at this to try and get the car to flip over. So if I go a bit quiet or something goes wrong, you'll know why. Hopefully we get it right first try, but basically the idea is we need to flip the car over 3 times in this section. So I'll need to see what I can do. And the first one is always the worst in my opinion. It's always this first one, so we'll see if we get it or not. I'm not expecting to, but you just don't know. You can see here that the car goes up the hill, but it won't actually... There you go. Did. There we go. So we got that first try, so move on to the second one, which should be nice and easy. Like I said, once we've got that first skip out the way, then we can obviously move on to the others. But host, it sounds like you have some information.
I sure do, because we have $9 from Reek, who says, I am bad at currency. But that's quite alright, because that has just brought us over the $2,500 mark for Prevent-A-Thon 6. Thank you so much, Reek, for the $9. And we've just gotten our $5 from Luis H. Garcia. Thank you so much for your donations. We're rolling, folks. Thank you so much so far. Keep this rolling in. Thank you for supporting such a great cause.
Well, thank you very much. I recognise Reek, Mr. BSG himself. It's always a name I recognise. Thank you, Reek. So them 3 ice skip things that you've just seen us do, they actually save, I think it's altogether about 40 seconds or something over doing the stage normally. Now there is a skip that you can do with the standard cars, but you can't do them with the bonus cars because none of the bonus cars fit, as far as I'm aware. But it's in stage 4, so stage 3 is just same old, but stage 4 there is a skip that we can't do in bonus cars, but the car's fast enough that we don't really need to. If we could do it in bonus cars, then that would be awesome, but there's no consistent way of doing it. We also wonder as well if there are certain stages like Grease Stage 1 where you can just drive out of bounds. We have found that on certain stages, like looking at some of the telemetry, that you're able to actually see the start and the finish are like right behind one another. There was like, wait, what if it's possible? Is it possible to literally just drive behind the start line and drive to the finish line and just get like a 10-second stage time? But we've not found anything like that yet. Nothing like that has been found. We think we've come close, but yeah, it's not happened. But so during this bit here, I'm gonna drive through the trees. And what we're going to do there is that's going to save us a little bit of time. It probably would have saved us more if I was a bit faster there, but nevertheless. So, get rid of stage 3. What was I saying? Yeah, so Colin McRae Rally, like the series in general, in terms of the speedrunning side of things. So Colin McRae Rally 1 is quite tame, I'd say. It's quite standard. It is literally just... If you want to start off with the Colin McRae Rally series, I would probably recommend Colin McRae Rally 1 because there's barely any like shortcuts or anything of that kind in the game. It's very basic in what it tries to do, and it is just literally about the driving. So if you want just a pure driving speedrun, that's basically in the series. That's one for you. Colin McRae 2, as you can see, does have a fair bit of busted tech to it in certain parts of it, like the stages, learning cuts and things like that. For the most part, it is about driving, but at the same time, you also have the problem where there are out of bounds and cuts that you can't do in certain cars and cuts you can do in certain cars, etc, etc. Colin McRae Rally 3, 04 and 2005 kind of ran off the same engine, I think. As a result, they all play similar. And in terms of the games themselves, Colin McRae Rally 3, you can only use the Ford Focus. Again, that is mostly about the driving and a few shortcuts here and there. 04 and 2005 are a bit similar. You can use rally skips in them 3 games as well, so you can turn a game that takes an hour and a half into, well, takes about 2 hours, 2.5 hours normally. You can take that to an hour and a half or less, depending on your driving. And for a while, that's what we were doing. We were doing runs that were about that long. So yeah, CMR 04 has a short category, which is the 2-wheel drive normal championship, because there's a normal and an advanced lasts longer, and a harder AI, heavier damage model and stuff like that. 2005 is plain and simple, just beat the championship as fast as you can, and do it in any way you see fit. So it is about driving for the most part, but yeah, nothing too much. The Dirt series, however, is a different ball game altogether. So Dirt obviously is split up into its own career mode and things like that. And the main thing about Dirt is that Dirt 1, for the longest time, I was just saying this in tech things before, but Colin McRae Dirt was actually the least broken of the lot. So we knew that in like Dirt 3 you're able to do certain things. Yeah, in Dirt 3 you were able to do certain skips. Dirt 2 was broken a couple of years ago. As a result, game time came down dramatically because we found out like certain events were much quicker now because of the fact you could do like this rallycross thing in LA, I think it was, and it allowed the game to be finished like way faster, especially when you lined up everything together and how to unlock XP the fastest, because that game was based on an XP system. Dirt, however, the original Dirt, was not really busted. It was busted a couple of years ago, but wasn't really like blown wide open. I do want to give credit to the guys for this. So I think it's like T-Fighter, Kazan, and Koital, I think it is, who found this incredible speed tech. But basically, what they have managed to do is, originally the first Dirt game was, it was released, like I said, in 2007. And for the most part, it was fine. It was okay. I think it was pretty average, but it wasn't horrendous. I absolutely loved Dirt 2 myself. And when I first started running the game all those years ago, the game was clocked in about 3.5 hours. There was a few like shortcuts and glitches that we could do to make the game a bit faster. But that only dropped the game down to about 3 hours 15 minutes. But then there was certain more game-breaking glitches, like, oh, okay, so you can cut this stage here by driving this route, it'll spawn you over here. If you do this, it'll do this, etc. However, in the last, I'd say month, or at least couple of weeks, unbeknownst to me at least, the community, it might have been even longer than that. For all I know, it's been at least the last couple of weeks. The community has been cooking up a storm. And when I say cooking up a storm, I mean they found lap glitchings, these super special stage glitches that make them even faster, and as a result, a game that once took 3.5 hours is now looking to be on track to set less than 2. The world record stands at nearly sub 2 hours, and I literally mean it's on the brink, so a really good run could push it under 2 hours, which is crazy. For a game that came out that long ago, and nobody really tried certain things and certain pathways, yeah, fair to say that that game has been blown wide open, and I really hope to see it like get into events over the next couple of months or even year. I'd absolutely love to see someone show how busted and broken that game is. So in terms of like games that I think are the most busted in the Colin McRae Rally game series / Dirt franchise, for me, I'd still say Colin McRae Rally 2 is the most busted, then Dirt, and then Dirt 2. The reason why I don't say any of the other games is, whilst Colin McRae Rally 1 has an out of bounds that you can do on one stage, it's not busted in the sense of how the other games are. For example, it's one stage in the entirety of Colin McRae Rally 1 is broken. Now, that might be because we haven't done enough research, but for now, that's what's happened. And it saves a lot of time if you get it right. In Dirt 2, like I said, we had the lap glitching. Okay, that was a big one, but then Dirt 1 came along and was like, yeah, you know, that game took 3.5 hours, it's now going to take less than 2. And it's just gotten, like, the time has been coming down over like the last couple of weeks, and to see the community tear the game apart, I'll be honest, it's quite satisfying, because I don't think I could do a run of that for 3.5 hours. But it's really great to see it get broken like it has done, so, yeah. But, in terms of runs that I picked up, CMR2 was definitely one of the first, I think? Like, originally, so when I first came into speedrunning back in 2014, because a friend of mine at the time told me to do it, because it was like, well, I like the Simpsons Sit and Run. It's like, dude, you should try it. There's a speedrun for that, and so on. So then my first ever speedrun game was the Simpsons Sit and Run. I enjoyed that for a couple of weeks and got used to practicing it, but then college life got in the way, college got in the way. About 2 years later, end of 2016, I came back to it again. This time, though, was determined to give it a try properly. So in 2016, late 2016, I did Colin McRae Rally 2 first, and then Colin McRae Rally 1. And at the time, Colin McRae Rally 1 did not have a leaderboard of sorts. And it was very interesting, to be honest. The fact that that didn't have a leaderboard on SRC at the time. There was a fair few games I was interested in. There was Driver 1, Driver 2, Colin McRae Rally 1 and 2. I didn't bother trying some of the Colin McRae Rally games and things like that. It's been an interesting, like, you know, over like the last, I'd say 8 or 9 years, has been a very interesting journey. I've took on some of the Need for Speed games, albeit not as extreme as I have for other games, but yeah, it's been a journey. I've done a lot of speedruns of racing games. The only series I haven't really tackled, to be honest, fully, I've only done a select few games from it, is, well, Need for Speed, obviously, but Gran Turismo was one of them. I do have plans to try and tackle some of the Gran Turismo games, but surprisingly or unsurprisingly, it's been an interesting experience when I have tried to just play them games and try to beat them faster casually, because I found that a lot of it is a bit difficult for me, so that's why I haven't done them. Same with Need for Speed as well, but I have a few that I want to play through casually, so yeah. There are a few other games to kind of include on that list as well, so I did speedruns for other games as well that weren't just related to driving, so I've done runs of like Treasure Planet, Monsters Inc., Pirates of the Caribbean, what else? Die Hard Trilogy, House of the Dead. I think the only one I haven't done in terms of rail shoes is probably Time Crisis and maybe Virtua Cop or something like that. I mean, I've done runs of all sorts of games, to be honest. Obviously, for me, I start around the PS1 age and then point my way forwards. I don't really do much other stuff. I've done a few Flash games here and there, but in terms of what I stick to, it is racing games. It's just a case of, over the last couple of years, my mindset has broadened, and I've done, you know, a fair few different racing games and things like that. In terms of like the game I've showed off the most, I think at any event, I think it would have to be this one, to be honest, because I've not counted how many times I've shown off Colin McRae Rally 2, but I imagine it's at least 20. maybe more. I don't know. It could be way less. I don't know. But in terms of how many events I've submitted this to, it's probably gone 50 at least. In terms of how many runs I've done, it's at least 20 odd, if not more. This is before, like, you know, before Wenger started doing things. I mean, when SRC used to have events on there, people used to have events on SRC. Before they used like Oengus and stuff like that, so yeah, it's very much a journey. It has been for me. With this game, it has very much been a journey. In probably a couple of years ago, it was definitely a journey. We do have a Colin McRae Rally Discord as well. If you wish to get involved in any of the games or want to start to learn them. There are, if you are interested in handheld games, this is something I haven't really mentioned. But in 2013, there was a iOS game called Colin McRae Rally. It was supposed to be a remake. Everyone thought it was supposed to be a remake of the first game. What it ended up being is a watered-down, rubbish version of this game. And as a result, there are 4 cars in it, which are available to drive. There is a Mitsubishi Lancer, Subaru Impreza, Ford Focus, and the Lancia Stratos as well, with the Stratos being the fastest car in the game. The game is very mediocre. I'd probably say it's terrible, to be honest, and wouldn't recommend it. It was on Steam for 69p, I think, to pick up. And to be honest, I think like a lot of us bought it because it was that cheap. That's why we ended up buying it on Steam, to be honest. The game series, like the Colin McRae Rally, is not perfect. It has had some flop games like Dirt 5, Dirt Showdown. Like I said, the aforementioned Colin McRae Rally iOS version in 2013, which got ported to Steam in 2014. Whoever thought that was a good idea is a bit of an idiot. But anyhow, I digress. So in terms of, like I said, the game series and things like that, there are handhelds excluding the iOS one. So the original Colin McRae Rally was released on Game Boy Color, so you can get a Game Boy Color version. There are speedruns of that last anywhere from 15 minutes up to an hour. Yeah, if you do decide to run Colin McRae Rally 2 for Game Boy Advance, it is the only platform that got released on handheld-wise. But honestly, for a Game Boy Advance game, it's pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's the best on the platform, but it's a pretty decent game. I do believe that is broken in a lot of different ways. Just no one's put a run together as of yet showing off how broken it is. But yeah, that's all good fun. And then in terms of the...
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. In terms of like the other games though, Colin McRae Rally 3 never got a sequel. Well, I'll say a sequel. It never got a a handheld version. But 04 and 2005 both got released on Java. So there are Java versions of the game. Same with Dirt 1 as well. The Colin McRae Dirt, the first one, got a Java version. You're not hearing that. You're not hearing things. That's right. It got a Java version. And lastly, in terms of handhelds, Colin McRae Dirt 2, I think it was the last one. Up for a while. I think it still is the last one, but Colin McRae Dirt 2 got a Wii and PSP version that was completely different to what we actually got with the main console versions. So it was something else entirely, but yeah, that's a fun bit of knowledge and trivia for you. And yeah, we're on to Kenya with the long gearbox, so there's going to be a lot of downtime in this rally, I'm not going to lie to you. So if our host wants to talk about anything or say anything, now is a perfectly good time to do so.
Yeah, glad to. I appreciate all the shout-outs you made to the community behind Colin McRae Rally and all of that. And chat's also piping in with their call-outs too. So we have $7 from Tabby who says, I want to give a quick shout-out to all the volunteers, hosts, restreamers, donations, producers, games committee, comms, runners, and everyone who made this event, who made it what it is. I'm glad I could help to make Pat 6th grade, less than 3. Thank you so much, Tabby. One of our dedicated volunteers. Thanks, Tabby, for your message. And yeah, we've got a whole community behind this. So shout out to everyone. Shout out to you. Shout out to the volunteers. Shout out to everyone in this marathon. It's a great time. We also have $9 from Dag, who says, doing my part to get us towards adding Donkey Kong Bonanza to the marathon. Yeah, and thank you so much for those $9, Dag, and that's right, every single dollar brings us ever closer to that Donkey Kong Bonanza any percent bonus run. If you want to see that, we have to meet 3,100 by that time that rolls around later in this marathon today, so please keep them rolling in. Thank you so much so far.
Thank you very much. We've got more time if you want to fill any more. Go for it. You got like I said, you got about 5 or 6 minutes. Kenya's really not that interested. It's just like a lot of straights. There's a few cuts here and there, but it's
oh wow,
it's pretty. I wouldn't say. I think Australia is more bland than Kenya in this game, but yeah, it's more about straights. I mean, to kind of prove a point, and I'll be completely honest. This game doesn't have downtime like anywhere because of how fast the game loads. But on the second stage, I can do the whole thing one-handed. So it's like, I mean, I'd have to try and do it without, you know, without touching me gear stick. So if I get it up to 6th gear, right? Okay, let's try this.
Hey, that can be a fun bonus thing.
There you go.
You can play the game one-handed and.
Oh, so now I'm now playing one-handed. There you go. Although this level is a bit more tricky than it looks. It's like it might be straight. I mean, it's bumpy, obviously, but it's like knowing what's coming over the hill. So, for example, like here, for example, I can let the car go a little bit, and then again, I'm still doing it all one-handed. I mean, this isn't me showing off. I think I did an entire run. Not with this car though, I did like the entire standard cars run using one hand, and that was interesting. So to make it a bit easier on myself, like this is using manual gears, this isn't using automatic, but I think it was a couple of years ago I ended up, I'll put my hand back on the steering wheel now to give myself some comfort, but at the time I was like, I wonder if, because I knew I could do like this stage mostly one hand. I was like, right, okay, so if I tell the game to do automatic gears, then that sorts out the gearbox. I won't have to worry about it. But I was like, what about if I tell the game to do automatic gears? That solves that problem. But I drive the rest one-handed. So basically, what I actually did was to drive one-handed. I mean, it was very painful driving one-handed, I won't lie, but to make things a bit easier, what I did to keep things about as interesting as I could is I tried to keep my arm behind my back, and then when it did come from behind my back, I had it either on the desk or visible away from the controller. And what I could do, the only time I could actually do anything for the other hand was to do that and swap, so that it was always one hand. It was never, so it didn't have to be my right hand that was on it, it could be my left hand, but it was whichever, just as long as it was one hand that was on the controller, it was pretty nuts. I've also beat the game on, so this game's not very good on a steering wheel, but I managed to make it work on a steering wheel. We also have a, do you know what, that actually brings me on to a great segue. So this game does have category extensions. So you may have, like I said, as I explained at the start, so there are, you have your Novice Championship, your Intermediate, and your Expert Championship, all of which can be completed with standard or bonus cars. They are split up depending on which one you want to do. Then you have Challenge Mode and Arcade Mode, and Arcade Mode has a load of different classes and groups and everything like that. And you can pick whichever one you wish to do the whichever one you wish to do the you know, the group. You can do individual groups, so you can do the entire thing. So you can pick which ones you want to do. But on the category extensions, the category extensions include some of the cheats. So there are certain cheats in the game that allow you, so this game has old-fashioned cheat codes where you can type stuff in. You don't actually put you don't button press, it's just you type a name in as your driver name and it activates a cheat code, which you can then turn on and off in the cheats menu. So two of the miscellaneous categories, actually the 3 miscellaneous categories we have on the category extensions, one of them is no major cuts or no major respawns. So If it involves flipping the car over to skip ahead, if it involves driving out of bounds and respawning at the end of the level, if it involves driving outside the track limits at all, apart from doing cuts like just cutting across a bit of grass here and there, it's not allowed, basically. So like minor bits where you just cut across some grass like I did at the very start in Finland, that would be allowed. But what I did in Greece or Sweden already, where I have deliberately cut across the, I've cut across by driving out of bounds or flipping the car over to get ahead, that's not allowed. So you have to do the game more legit. So it's essentially like, if you were to run the game for the first time, that would be the category for you. It would make it, so much easier. It's like you drive the car as it is, and that's that. Now, if you want a challenge, there are 2 other categories in the category extensions. Now, we've only done this for the Novice Championship so far, but it's something. So the first one is mirrored mode. And mirror mode, as you might suspect, is where everything's flipped over. So instead of me taking the right turn right now, it would be a left turn. And so on. The entire game looks completely different. So all the cuts that you know in the regular game are now flipped. And knowing where to cut corners and everything becomes so much more difficult. It became quite a fun run for me to do. But I rarely do them, to be honest. It does make the game look different, though. I'll be honest, it feels like a brand new game when it's in mirrored mode. Even though it's the same game, you do things the same way, it does make it seem like it's the same game. Seem like a different game. And last but not least, the other category that we do have is cockpit only mode. Now, cockpit only mode was one that I ended up talking about with somebody. I didn't come up with it, they did, and they were basically saying, so they said, oh, that's something, yeah. So it's like, you've got the cockpit mode. I was like, yeah. The cockpit view in the game. I said, yeah. He went, what about if you did a full run with it? And I went, that seems a bit crazy. I don't think I'd ever do that. And then about 3 weeks later, I think I did it. I was like, this makes the game so much more difficult because I'm always used to driving the car like this, where the camera is behind. If you can imagine for a second that you drive the entire running cockpit view, it probably looks something like this. So, this is cockpit view. And, yeah, driving this car at this amount of speed is honestly terrifying. So I'm going to stop that now. But, yeah, you see what I mean. It becomes a lot more interesting when you're driving in cockpit view. Not only that, but imagine trying to do all these skips in cockpit view, where you have to remember where to go, what lines to take, what cuts to do. It's, yeah, very interesting one. So I will just bring up Italy. So I mentioned before that Italy was tarmac hell. And that's no joke. You can see by the amount of corners that there are that this is very technical. Now, luckily we got... Now, this is only for now, but we got quite lucky with the weather. So the weather at the moment is dry. If it rains, it gets even worse. And for me, if you get a wet Italy at any point, it's awful. Because, like, wet gravel isn't too bad. It's manageable. But wet tarmac is the worst. Now, one of the bugs that I actually get on my game, because I get the flashing screens and everything, the flashing skybox, is you may see that the entire screen at the start will go grey. If that's the case, that means that dynamic weather is enabled, and it means that it will start dry and end wet. So we might see it on this second stage, possibly. Or not, I'm not sure. Nope, still dry. We're not too bad. But you can see here that the clouds are getting darker, so we might end up having rain on stages 3 and 4. Now there is a skip that I would like to show here. Basically at the start of this stage, now you can only do it when this is dry, but at the start of this stage, especially with this guy, you can easily do it. You can go backwards up the hill and drive behind the finish line. And the game will try and respawn you. We've tried to find a way to stop the game from respawning you, but if you get your line just right, then you can actually drive behind the start-finish line and drive down a grass bank. And you'll respawn, you'll start for about where we are here. And if you do this fast enough, it saves about 15 to 20 seconds off the stage, which is kind of crazy, really, for Italy. There's not too many that I can really mention in terms of skips. This is literally just about concentration and driving flat out and not hitting walls too often. Now, there are a few different collision detections in this, which is an interesting one, but we'll hopefully not see it. But you can see here that we're driving through Italy. It has like a bus stop and everything. Now, I can just mention as well, this game also, apart from the fact that, so in the original Colin McRae Rally 1, you can actually do 2-player, so you can do split screen with each other. You can only do it on like an individual, I think, stage or even a rally. I can't remember exactly. You can do it on a rally, but definitely do it on a stage time anyway. But on PC, you can play over network. You know, back in them days when you could play network with a LAN and all the rest of it. Which I think is really, really cool. We've never tried it online. I would absolutely love to try it online. However, this game can actually be played online using like LAN network applications. I don't know what I could give you. I forget what it was called. Love Me in Hamachi, I think it was called. Was I think the one that we used at the time. And yeah, it was a pretty good. It was pretty good. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest, for what it was. Yeah, we tried the just like I said, just a regular playing the game and everything, just doing online racing. So this game has like a dedicated network mode as well, so you can do network stuff and everything. It doesn't look like it's gonna rain, but it could do. It's just threatening rain, it just won't do it. Italy's really being like that with me today, isn't it? It's like, I might rain, I might not. It just looks like it's gonna rain. But yeah, what I was trying to say was the fact that this game has a co-op championship, so you can actually, you and a friend can tackle the championship as fast as you want. And me and a few other runners, so I did it with a friend of mine called Ben. I then tried it with Matique, who's obviously the world record holder, and most recently, me and Cousin, the French runner, also did a run at NSG a couple of months ago. Shout out to NSG, by the way, in Norway. And yeah, we did, like, it was an offline run, but we recorded it. So there was no mic audio or anything like that from us, but we did have like game audio, and yeah, obviously we were playing the game. And we managed to get the time from, I think it was like a 1:25 or something, which sounds slow compared to like what a solo one is. But the one thing you have to remember about a co-op championship, there's two things to keep in mind. Firstly, you have to wait until the other player crosses the line. So if that player loses a minute because they missed an out of bounds and you didn't, then you have to wait for that minute. If you're playing a super special stage, one of you has to stay still whilst the other one does the stage. So you actually lose time based on that as well, compared to the normal run, which is where you just get yourself disqualified and that's the end of it. There's no cheap way out of it to make it faster. It just doesn't exist. So that's the reason why. However, there is a mega plus side for the Co-op Championship we found out pretty quickly. So in the Co-op Championship, because it has to load two cars on screen at the same time and landscape on the at the same time, it has to render two of the same. As a result, it cuts back on how much it renders. So for example, trees that might normally get in your way and might be a major pain in the backside are no longer there. No, they're not invisible, they just don't exist. So we found some interesting lines through stages and can actually make stages faster by doing them in co-op. However, with us being like we are, if we did this if everyone did their stage times via that method and not via the normal method, which is doing the stage normally, one player, then obviously the leaderboards will be a bit busted. So yeah, we don't really want to do that, but it's a fun little fact for you to know. So Italy's been dry. That means that I'm fairly certain that means that the UK is going to be wet. I'm not looking forward to it if it is, but still, I'm quite happy about the fact that Italy is dry completely. The one thing I will just quickly mention, if you get a wet Italy and a wet UK, it is honestly not that bad. You can make your way around it. Wet Italy is worse than wet UK. If it's wet in the UK, it can slow you down. But here's the thing. So I personally, this is what I would recommend. So I have started telling a lot of runners, I have done for a couple of years now, that in my opinion, that we use the shortened gearbox for Italy, but no one seems to use it for the UK. However, I started doing it because of one simple reason. When it's wet, you can never reach top speed, and the one thing you need in wet conditions is acceleration due to the corners. So, it, yeah, it makes you wonder. It does just make you wonder. So I told people, I was like, yeah, you could do with, if you can, use a shortened gearbox, it's way better.
I've got a quick update on some bid wars, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, on the Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro bid war, we still have Spider-Man 2099 costume in first place at $22 Canadian. But Classic Spider-Man is in second place at 10, and Symbiote Spider-Man in a close third at 9. Alex Ross and Prodigy still need some love there, so if you have any opinions on which costume to wear during our next run of Spider-Man 2, which is coming up right after this, now is the time to donate. We do have to close that bid war when the run starts, so now is the perfect time to make your voice heard as to which costume we should wear during that run. So let's see those donations.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, like I was saying, so the court championship is something else, and I think Codon's even mentioned about getting it as a category extension leaderboard thing and everything. And I'm like, as much as I like the idea, it's like, does it warrant it enough? I don't know. Also, of course it's dry. Of course it's dry. This is what I was talking about. So, or what I was trying to say. So the reason why I was telling people to use a shortened gearbox is that if it's dry, you lose time. If it's wet, you don't lose much. It allows you to keep your speed and your acceleration. So I'm obviously going to lose some time here because the UK has decided to be nice to me. Surprise, surprise, it's never usually this nice. Although we did get wet Finland, so I suppose that kind of makes up for the lack of rain. If it rains after this first stage, don't be surprised about anything, because the UK, we did actually realise something. So I looked into the game's code using Cheat Engine, and what we found out was that we can actually change. The game has a two-tier weather system, but it has multiple values at multiple points in the game's code. So one of the things we found out was that these two certain digits that were constantly randomized. We found out that these were the weather points, and that if we changed them both to a 0, that means that the weather would be clear, it would be dry. If we changed them both to a 1, they'd be cloudy. If it was 2, they'd be changed to light rain. 3 would be heavy rain. 4 would end up being something like snow. 5 would be, I think it's, no, 4 would be storm, I think. 5 would be snow. 6 would be I think like heavy snow, and 6 would be, I don't know what it was. 5 would be snow, 6 would be like a blizzard, I think, a light blizzard, and then 7 would be like a snowstorm or something. But yeah, we ended up finding that out, and there was nothing for like 8 or 9, but it was interesting. But I will be honest as well, there is one really funny thing about everything. Is that, there we go, there's the weather glitch thing I was telling you about. That allows me to know what weather's coming. So it is going to start raining in the UK. Way! As if I couldn't suggest that that was going to happen. But we did realise that one thing's for certain. In terms of the actual weather system, the UK has an 80% chance of raining. So getting a 20% chance of dry UK is yeah, it's fairly not going to happen. It's 80% chance of rain in the UK, and that percentage gets higher the more you try and aim for a dry UK. I think the chances of doing like a fully dry UK is something like 5% maybe. It still exists and you can still get it, but it just seems like there's no way to get it consistently. So yeah, the more you know. Yeah, we tampered with like the weather system and everything. There is actually a known way to mess with the weather without actually doing anything. If we have time at the end of the run, I can quickly show it off, but it is something that you can just do without even needing to cheat or manipulate code or anything. It's something that's been known about for quite a number of years, but it's quite funny that you can do it. Yeah, I just have to remind myself at the end of the run, to be honest. So, stage 2 is actually not a bad stage to get rain on. However, stage 3 is a bad stage to have rain on. So the thing is, the weather doesn't just disappear. If it's wet, it will stay wet, and that'll kind of be the end of it, really. But, yeah, so stage 3 is going to be a bit of an interesting one, because wet weather on this is not fantastic. It's not very good. I personally don't like it. I wish there was a way we could break this stage, to be honest. I would happily take it. Because it means that even if it's wet, it's like, oh, okay, this is no big deal. There are like cuts you can do in the trees, which you'll see me do here. But obviously they only save like a second or two. I mean, it all adds up, but it's still just one of them things, really. So, I'm going to quickly just cut through here. But yeah, stage 4 is the one we really want to keep an eye out for. So you can see here that I haven't got the highest top speed. I'm not able to reach the top speed, but I'm able to get the car to ping off the limiter. Like I said, I'm aiming in the wet. So for those that aren't aware or are unaware of what's going on here, the reason why I use the shortened gearbox. So the way I look at it is this. If you don't have much grip, then it means that you aren't going to reach your top speed very often. So as a result, going for acceleration is the best thing you can do, given the fact that the car's going to be constantly wheel spinning. You might wheel spin a lot, but at least you've got the acceleration to get you out of corners, and it makes things much faster and easier. You will lose time compared to a dry UK, but in the wet UK, they're trying to minimise the time you lose to a dry one. That makes sense. So by doing this with the gearbox, it means that I'm able to reduce the amount of time lost. And this was only something that I was thinking about, like, I think it was about a year or so ago. I was like, why don't we just use a shorter gearbox? Everyone's like, no, don't use a shorter gearbox in the UK, it's worse. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, if it rains, at least you're prepared. Whereas if it's a dry UK, you're kind of screwed. And he's like one of the runners said, well, yeah, but what if it's a dry UK? And you said how will you know if it's a dry UK? I said, well, that's the thing. We never check the weather forecast. So you're going in whether you want to gamble or not. And I said, I'm not really a gambling person. I'd rather go for consistency over gambling. So whilst this might not be the fastest way of doing it, personally, I would rather it be, you know, I'd rather go for a more consistent way. Also, it does seem as though that wet weather is already gone, which is quite nice. That's pretty good. It's already dried up. So, UK Stage 4. UK Stage 4, and it's dry, has a very unique trick up its sleeve, and you'll see why. So this stage normally takes about 2 or so minutes. If you're someone who's just playing the game for the first time, this will take you about 2.5 to 3 minutes, I'd say. In the fastest car, it should take you less, but we're speedrunners, so we can do what we want. So, first thing we do is skip through this barrier, because the car fits through there. We're then going to go down here. I'm going to clip through here. There's 2 ways of getting through here, but this is honestly just the more safe strat. So, barriers, who needs them? So you just get through there. Then we're going to drive down to the river down here. And we're going to drive in the river, but close to the respawn line here. And you can see here that the game's not respawning us, it's telling us wrong way. We'll climb up on this hill bank here. And we're going to go right over here. And then we're just going to drive out of bounds, and there's the finish line. And that's the stage done. So there you go. That's how you do a stage in 56 seconds. That usually takes 2 minutes. And for the finale, we obviously have the glitch where we need to get in front of, we need to stop McRae. So time is going to be coming up once we see the camera change for McRae. So get ready on time. And if I can get this good enough, I don't know if I can, but I'll try my best. If I can get it good enough. Fine. That was, I got a 1:14.01, I believe, by my standards. So, yeah, it's pretty good. So you can see here, just like to show what I mean. So, the guy that had the fastest time was a 1:57. Because we got timed out, we got a 3:26.26. So, it was at 26:26 when we finished the stage, quote unquote finished. But the 3-minute bit is the time penalty we suffered from being disqualified. But you can see that because of the amount of time we got ahead of the AI, that we was able to win with ease. Obviously, we won the championship as well. And for the pièce de résistance, I would like to show you this. Now, because you're playing in manual gears, this only happens if you play in manual gears, because what is supposed to happen is if you're playing automatic gears, the car drives on its own, you get a cutscene and everything like that. However, with manual gears, the game doesn't know what the change up button is for the gear stick, and as a result, that happens. So the car reverses instead because it has no idea of going forwards, and then when it does respawn, it goes forwards, it stops like 1.5 miles away from the house where the fireworks are going off. So I think there was something else I wanted to show, which is I wanted to show off. Oh, the weather trick. Have we got time to show this off?
Give me 1 moment. Do you know how long they'll take?
Like maybe 30 seconds to a minute, not much time.
That's perfectly fine. Go for it.
Okay, so the way the weather system works is you can carry it over between stages so you can change the weather over. So here's how it works. So you select a stage like so. Now we need a stage that has the 4th option. So you can see here in Greece it only has 3 options. However, in Sweden it has 4. Now if I go to some like, so you can see here there's rain in Australia, there's rain in Kenya, there's a storm in Italy, and there's a storm in the UK. If I highlight storm, come out of that and go straight into the you can see here it is selected an unknown weather. And if I go into this happens. We can transfer the weather from the UK into Greece, and you can have this unique effect where the game is going to flash a little bit now, but that's simply because of the fact that, like that, but this is simply because of the fact that now the game it's picked up. It's really funny actually. So it essentially picks the game's weather pattern up from the UK and transfers it over to Greece. And it doesn't just work for Greece, like it works for Greece, but it doesn't just work for storm either. You can see here that like France, it has rain. We can transfer rain over, but Sweden has light blizzard. So this is the very popular one. So you can actually make this happen. You can make it snow in Greece, and the funny thing is, I did a run, because of the fact of, granted, you can do this like legit out of the way. You can do this without actually needing to do anything. The funny thing is, the car will drive normally. It'll drive as if nothing's wrong. However, here's the fun part. If I restart the stage, the weather effect stands. If I go to the service area, it apparently says that it's snowing. Now I can put the snow tyres on, and here you go. Now, it doesn't change much other than the fact that the car is going to be slippery and can slip around and everything. You can see here that one of the main things to kind of point out here is that the car's tires are sparking. For those that aren't that are wondering what the hell's going on, basically the tires are spikes. They're spike tires. They're studs, and they've got metal studs that come out of the tires to help in snowy conditions. So you can imagine why they're like sparking, because they're hitting all the gravel on the stage. It's a very cool idea, and one of the things that we wanted to hope to try and do at some point is the main flaw of this game, like the main highlight of this game is the fact it has dynamic weather. If we was able to change the weather system consistently, like have a weather effect, like weather manipulator, so it changes every stage to just dry, that would make like speedrunning way more consistent for like if we want to do dry runs of everything. But not only that, we could also have the implementation of rain everywhere, snow everywhere. Like doing France with snow is ridiculous. So you can't do it like the normal way, like so you have to use some like cheat engine to do it. But if you ever get a chance to play with this game and play about with it, just in general, I would highly recommend it. Like I said, the game came out in 2000. It is quite easy to get hold of via like, you know, my abandonware and stuff like that. It's techno class as abandonware these days. Yeah, you can get a silent patch for the game if you own the game on DVD or disc or whatever it is. Then obviously you can play it on that. If you do choose to play the PS1 version, you can emulate it. You can play it on console. I will just say for the record that we have allowed better load times for emulator stuff. So if you wanted to play it at a better frame rate and stuff like that, would probably recommend the North American version. But for me, I always recommend the PAL version because that's got Colin McRae's actual co-driver, Nicky Grist, who I've met in the game, rather than the American co-driver, who I don't know who it is, but there you go. Anyway, so I'm going to stop ranting. I'm just going to quickly close off some final things, which are that you can catch me over on Twitch at Viper Races. I do have a community Discord, which is over on my channel. I want to mention as well, big shout out to my community for being awesome and sticking by me no matter what. And obviously my partner in crime, Linky, or Broken Hyperlink, for being there for me and being an amazing person. She's been there for me for quite a bit now, for the last nearly 2 years. So yeah, just want to shout out, big mention to her. And obviously to the Colin McRae Rally community as well, who, like I said, are finding new ways to break the games. And yeah, hopefully we'll see some more busted games in the future. But apart from that, I'll hand it back over to our host. So yeah, thank you very much. There's hope for that. Our host might have gone. Oh no. Might have missed them. I might have missed them. I don't know. Did I miss them? Anyway, the game's playing up in the background, so I'll leave it to do its thing. So, yeah, should be fine.
Oh, good grief.
Yes.
Hello
there
there.
we go.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know, my computer decided to spaz out this moment, and I sound a little bit different, but thank you again. Folks, give it up one more time for Viper in Colin McRae Rally 2.0. Thank you so much.